theme parks struggling with attendance in 2020, not 2021. I thought that it would make sense for them to talk about 2021 and how they've, had struggled through this year. But apparently, this article said last year wasn't a great year for theme parks. It's like, well, if you weren't paying attention at all, yeah, they weren't great. I mean, Disneyland and Disney World were both shut down for a good chunk of 2020. In fact, Disneyland didn't open until this year. So Disney World opened, I think it was 3 months or so after the initial shutdown in March. And I think, if I remember correctly, Universal opened up slightly sooner than that. So, the parks being hampered by maximum capacities and just, people not wanting to necessarily travel. Maybe you have a bunch of local market that's coming to your park, but are you getting the people that are getting on a plane and all that? So 2020 was a very crazy year that has mostly not ended for various reasons. But it says the report states 2020's attendance is largely a function of regulatory agency restrictions limiting parks operating days and capacities, and not park popularity and management. So I don't. So look, I'm very much in tune with what Disney and Universal do at their parks. I listen to a couple different podcasts and a couple different resources talking about their businesses, because I'm always interested in like what they got going on. And it's not just it wasn't just about regulatory agency restrictions, because Disney limited their own stuff, and they have continued to not necessarily go by what their state restrictions are when it comes to Florida and Disney World, not necessarily Disneyland. The part of the problem that Disney World ran into that Universal Studios didn't necessarily have was, Disney World is like it's a city. There's so many moving parts in there, and there's so many people that are needed to be able to make it operate and just keep the gears turning, versus Universal. Universal's massive, but Universal's definitely not Disney. It's like two totally different things when it comes to how do we get this started back up. And so I think that part of the problem there is actually more to do with, just getting personnel. So in Disney's case, a lot of things didn't come back right away, or came back in very limited capacities, as far as like shows and food options and all these things. And they didn't even be able to get the food. I mean, Disneyland, it was basically like, hey, what do we have to serve for lunch today? Like, well, what did the cast members bring in for lunch? And we'll serve that. Or what did the cast members pick up at Costco before on their way in? Chicken nuggets. All right. It's a chicken nugget kind of day. It's like, these are the kinds of constraints that they have been operating through. And when it comes to your business and looking back and saying, well, have we been operating at 100% capacity the way that we could be or should be, or what has played a role in it? Like I said, I think that this report is a little unjust, in the sense that they definitely have staffing shortages, bus driver shortages, hotel staff shortages, food prepper shortages. So I don't think that this is totally the full picture. But I want you to think about, okay, well, what has been the problem, and identify it, so that we can say, okay, how can we go around that problem? What can we do differently? What could I offer that's differently to generate another revenue source, right? And Disney has sort of figured some of that out, right? They went through and they changed up their annual passes, right? So they have these tiered annual passes. They think they used to have like 3 or 4, and now they have like 7. They've tempered some of the offerings that they have because of the shortages, and enabled them to reduce costs in some ways. So just think about all these things, every aspect of your business, when you're like, how can I get through the problem that we have right now. Like when these are the things that are happening, what can I do to get through that? What can I do to go around that? Whatever it takes to make that happen is what you need to be looking at. So identify the problems, identify the shortcomings, so you can start to figure out the ways around them, rather than just having them in the back of your mind. They weigh you down, they slow you down. It's not healthy, and it's not going to help get you where you want to be.